Hey, how's it going, everybody? First and foremost, I do want to thank you guys for checking this video out. For some time, I've had a lot of people ask me about how I go about using bias effects as my main primary source of guitar tones, which is why I have this Cubase session project opened up to basically help me walk you guys through how I went about getting this guitar tone. If you haven't checked out the demonstration of this actual guitar tone in a mixed setting, I'm going to put a link right here that will lead you to that demonstration video. So, this is actually one of the guitar tracks that I used for that said video, and the DI by itself sounds like this. Right, not much going on there. So this is the actual guitar tone. I'm not going to go into the specifics as to how I got the setting for each individual knob for each amp, but I am going to say I split my signal into two different amplifiers to basically achieve one thing. And that's technically to allow myself to be able to achieve a guitar tone where I'm able to control the low end and the high end separately. And I opted to choose different amplifiers that ultimately had certain characteristics within their tone that made me want to use them for the creation of this preset. So for the low end, I actually ended up with this German Fire, and I ended up using this 4x12 green with 25 speakers in it. And I felt like, given the gain that it had to offer, it was great for what I was looking for the lower end portion of my guitar tone. So these are the settings that I finalized the tone with, but just so you can hear what I'm talking about when I say characteristics of the gain, I'm going to raise the gain to help you guys hear what this actual amplifier, before any effects are actually in the chain, had to offer for, again, the bottom end of the tone that I was looking for. So with that kicked in, this is how the DI sounds like. Alright, so that by itself sounds pretty good in my opinion. And to prevent any changes to the tone, from time to time I'm actually going to go back and select the preset again, just to kind of go back to the actual settings that I ended up with. So that's the bottom end portion. For the high end portion, for the treble, for the growl, I ended up going with the Snake's Lead 800. Again, these settings were basically what I ended up with in after going to trial and tribulation of trying to get what I wanted from this specific amplifier. The cabinet is 4x12 with orange V30s. And once again, I'm going to raise the gain just so you can hear what this amplifier actually had to offer in terms of gain for the higher end portion of our guitar tone. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just turn off this portion, and here we go. So without. And with. All right. So now we could kind of go back and forth to kind of see the relationship between the amps and see how they kind of cater to one another. So the bottom end, just so you could kind of get a better hear for what this amp had to offer. And the high end. So with the way I have these two amplifiers actually mixed, you can tell that the higher end portion, or the Snake Lead 800, is actually louder in the mix. But when I put in the German Fire, you can see what the German Fire is actually offering to the guitar tone. You can notice it gets much more fuller. You could really hear what this has to offer in terms of body when you hear the single note stuff. All right. So we're going to just go back here and reset it. Now we kind of kick in these two amplifiers and we're going to save it. Okay. So together, with the gain settings that we have here, with the gain settings again that we finalized with, sounds pretty dull. So this is where the drive kicks in. Now, what I actually do is I tailor the drive. Well, actually, let me backtrack. I always have these settings for the overdrive. I take away all the drive, I take away all the tone, and I put the level to maximum. And what I do is I turn on the drive, and let's say this is where I had the amplifier after testing it for what I wanted to get. What I'll do is I'll listen to how this drive affects the gain stage in this amplifier. And I'll dial back the gain to where I want it to be, not muddy, but very tight and kind of very precise. So this is what I would have done if I was doing this tone from scratch. It's right about there. Just to kind of have the drive not add too much gain, but just kind of tame and be able to make the actual distortion of this amplifier kind of be more of a cut through type of gain, more than, you know, just like a wobble of just distortion in the back. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to keep the same settings for the drive, and we're going to just go to the Snake Lead 800 again, cranking up the gain, and see how we could kind of tailor this drive to affect the gain in a very good way. Turn it on, obviously. And have it right about there. So again, we're going to go back, reset it, and just kick in the overdrive. So with that in place, we have okay. So what follows is a compressor. Now, basically, I'm not going to go too in depth again with each knob, because the compressors and bias effects are really good, but each one individually does something different. And just for what I was trying to achieve with this guitar tone, I opted out for this one. These are the settings that I ended up with, but basically what I ended up hearing was a more compressed sound. Obviously, it took our peaks and our valleys and kind of made it more uniform. And what this actual compressor had to offer was a little bit of more gain, just added a little bit of extra oomph, a little bit of body, and technically just takes the signal and makes it just a little bit tighter. So let's see how that sounds kicking it in and kicking it out. It's definitely not a night and day difference, but it does do something that I really like. So after that is actually, the gate is going to be for very last, but what we're going to do is we're going to start tone shaping the actual tone that we have so far with some EQ. So for this EQ, I basically used it for the low pass and the high pass filter. I killed the low end at about 121 and 20K for the high end. I raised these two bands right here to kind of add some bite to the actual guitar tone, as well as add a little bit of punch at 250. So with this EQ, it's going to sound like this. Okay, so you might see that the actual body and the bass portion of the guitar tone kind of gets killed after implementing this EQ, but I wanted to make this guitar tone as mix ready, so you don't really have to do anything else on the signal chain if you want to use this guitar tone in a mix. So not necessarily, well, a guitar tone that has a lot of bass does sound good by itself, but in a mix setting, it won't necessarily be the best type of guitar tone to actually use, because you definitely don't want to take up the space that a bass or a kick drum would basically be taking up. So that's what I basically got from this EQ. Now this is going to be a second EQ, a much broader EQ. Again, just raise a little bit of the highs, a little bit of resonance. Took away some of the mids, just kind of make things a little bit more tighter, kind of get that scoop sound. Kept the lows basically where they were. So with this off, with this on. Alright, so you can kind of hear how the guitar tone is actually going to be able to break through a mix. So basically that's going to be the guitar tone in general. That's basically what I finalized with, right? But there was this background noise that I heard in certain portions of the song, and I attributed that background noise to basically having a lot of boosts around this general area in the guitar tone. So what I have here is actually a held out chord that I used to actually pinpoint where that background noise actually was. So if I'm not mistaken, you could kind of isolate the background noise just so you guys could kind of hear what I'm talking about. It should be right around here where the chord basically kind of starts fading away, but you still have like the back end portion of what is behind the guitar tone kind of just linger. So I'm going to kick in this EQ that I actually used to take away some of that background hiss. There's like a sense of static. Here we go. You see how the second I take away that EQ, how it kind of pops out? And all I really did there was actually take away some of the highs and a little bit of the resonances. I did boost low because I felt like the guitar tone was lacking a little bit of body after implementing the high pass filter. But I just added just a little bit of low end just to kind of bring it back in terms of bass and body. Now you might be asking yourself why I put the EQ here and not after this. I just felt like the coloration that this EQ had was better suited for what I was trying to do in this placement and not after this second EQ. And then from there, we're going to add the gate to finalize the tone. Let's get it nice and chunky, nice and cutthroat. And overall, this is how it sounds like. All right. And now I actually have the left and right guitar for the song that I used to demonstrate this actual guitar tone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just open up bias effects. Make sure everything is panned left, right. Okay. Took away some decibels away just so we don't kill everybody using headphones. Not sure how loud it's going to be, but this is how it sounds.